happening overseas, my attention was focused rapidly over the weekend by a number of people saying, have you seen this document? Which indeed I hadn't. It's called the Antisemitism Policy Trust, Conspiracy Theories, a Guide for Members of Parliament and Candidates. Now, when you see these documents, it's always good to have a look at who's involved. I'll come back to these particular organisations in just a moment. But it says here, special thanks to Dr. Matthew Sweet for advising on this guide, and I'll come back to him in a minute. But if you go looking a little bit for this document, a Guardian article pops up pretty quickly. What conspiracy theories are UK MPs being told to look out for? MPs and election candidates are being given a guide about conspiracy theories covering topics such as 5G and the climate crisis. Some important information in here, because The Guardian says the guide was commissioned by Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons, who launched it with the shadow leader, Lucy Powell, amid concern about the impact of conspiracy theories, in many cases with anti-Semitic overtones. Well, a bit more detail on what this thing was about. Let's bring in a bit more text. The guide to inform members of Parliament, parliamentary candidates about the risks, and to try and draw out some of the key themes in order that you can be prepared to quickly assess and understand new conspiracy theories as they emerge. In this guide, we outline what conspiracy theories are, their appeal, and an oversight of 8 prominent conspiracies in the United Kingdom. And it goes on to say that conspiracy theories do not exist in isolation, but share and borrow core components. Numerous conspiracy theories are rooted in anti-Jewish racism. Key in this text, of course, is that the MPs are not bright enough to work out what is a conspiracy theory or not themselves. They should rely on this document by the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust. So our MPs, unfortunately, just not bright enough to work out what's true and what's not. But if we go on through, we start to see more information on Twitter. This is Matthew Sweet, who was tweeting out that it was it shows that there's something about the strangely touching faith that conspiracy theorists have in the power of institutions and the desire to see patterns that don't exist, which has so often end up with fantasies about secret Jewish power. Very, very quickly, the heavy pro-Jewish or conspiracy theories, which are being flagged up as being anti-Semitic. This is the meat of this document. So if we move on through, these are some of the organisations connected. We haven't got time in today's news to go into them in detail, but let's bring in the first one here, CST. Now, this organisation is almost like a private police force to protect the Jewish community, but it says that it's also screening them from racism and anti-Semitism, and ultimately it's working to promote and help the Jewish community at all times. So the minimum you can say is this is an extremely pro-Jewish organisation. Here's the Global Network on Extremism and Technology, and if we bring in some text here, we find that this is an academic research initiative backed by the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. So this is getting darker. This is operating worldwide, but apparently this organisation is helping to educate our MPs. Here's Tell Mama. Now this one is supposedly protecting the Islamic community from anti-Islam comments and racism. In the small print, it says Tell Mama is a national project of Faith Matters CIC, Community Interest Company. I'll bring the text in white so it's not hidden in the small print. But my question for the audience is a little prompt on just who is Faith Matters CIC, because once we get investigating Faith Matters CIC, it becomes even more difficult to see who's behind them. So this guide for our politicians, which Penny Mordaunt has commissioned, very, very difficult to see who is really the power behind it in many areas. If we mention full fact, well, that's an easy one, because just do your search on UK column and you can find that we've warned and warned about the duplicitous nature of this organisation over many years. One article, full fact equals faux fact. But have a look on UK column and you can see some of our concerns and warnings. But a big thank you to Mike Robinson, who was away speaking at the weekend about the clampdown on free speech. And he had mentioned the very Institute for Strategic Dialogue tied in with this anti-Semitism organisation. And here it is, powering solutions to extremism, hate and disinformation, mentioning Elon Musk. But it says it partners with governments, cities, businesses and communities to deliver solutions at all levels, headquartered in London with a global footprint of teams in Washington, Berlin, Amman, Nairobi and Paris. So this isn't a small organisation, it's actually very powerful, but now it's advising British MPs. If we carry on through, it says that they're tracking online manipulation, disinformation, hate and extremism in real time. So does this mean that we're all being watched now to see whether we dare to say something which could be construed as anti-Semitic? That's a very worrying situation. But it says that they're working to empower civil society, fostering networks of community influencers, and saying that we've trained over 32,000 activists and social influencers around the world. So I'm going to suggest this document that Penny Mordaunt has commissioned is nothing to do with protecting the Jewish community. This is about locking down on other members of the community and using these very powerful organisations to do so. So if we just come back to the document, there was one other name that caught my attention. Let's bring in a big, before we do, this is hidden when you look at the document, but there's a little bit of a subliminal. It says the earth is flat, which of course is to catch the eye of those politicians reading the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust document. But this was the other name that caught my eye, Aria Kovler. And when I went looking for him, we quickly come to Twitter, and he says, hey, that's my name on the cover. I was proud to contribute a chapter on global control conspiracy theories and the Great Reset to this guide. This is the gentleman concerned, very young, not sure what his expertise is, but he gets onto the World Economic Forum very quickly to say that this is one of the big targets of conspiracy theorists. He then mentions the Great Reset, but not to worry because this is just something that Prince Charles got involved in. So encourage viewers today to go and have a look at the Green King series on UK column, when Debbie Evans and myself have been warning about the real power that King Charles has and what work he's doing to enact this global reset. But just to stress the fact that the basis for this document is to protect people from anti-Semitism. It's extremely pro-Jewish. Here we've got a diagram they have where all of the key chapters of the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust document are linked back to anti-Semitism. And basically I'm saying that any critical analysis of policy, according to these people, is anti-Semitism. If we go to the conclusion, we don't need to spend long on this, but I'll encourage people to go through these particular areas. Basically, again, it comes down to the fact that MPs need this help to inform themselves and their constituents. But basically, it says that when people are presented with verified, reliable facts, they start to pay attention. Why is it then that when we challenge the government and global organisations for the verified, reliable facts, we're simply told to be quiet? So I'm going to end this segment by saying that in reality, this report is designed to stop busy MPs from thinking for themselves, and it's also designed to channel MPs into believing any criticism of government and global policy is conspiracy theory. And as such, that means that this document itself is disinformation and propaganda. A lot to be discussed there, Charles, but we'll save that for extra. I'm just going to play a little clip here of a video that was sent in to us. This is by a music band. And let's have a look at this, and then I'll explain what it's about, and we'll show the full video in extra time.
There are people out in the world right now that are drinking something called raw milk.
The top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict or climate. It is disinformation and misinformation.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the community use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what they think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Misinformation.
Well, there we are, a little taster from Raw Milk Conspiracy. If you want to see the full music video, join us for UK Column Extra Time. But we're going to poke a bit of fun back at the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust and what conspiracy is and is not. Well,